Welcome to our fugue party. Oh, what is a fugue? Well, let's find out.
A contrapuntal composition in which a short melody or phrase, the subject, is introduced by one part and successively taken by others and developed by interweaving the parts.
Okay, let's break this down. In most of the music we hear today, there's a clear distinction of melody and accompaniment. You usually get a main instrument or singer with the melody, and others providing accompaniment. This is true in almost all kinds of pop music, where there's often a lead singer with other instruments like guitar and drums playing the accompaniment. Even in classical music, there are usually separate melody and accompaniment lines. But in the case of a fugue, the line between these two isn't very clear. There is still a main melody here, but different instruments take turns to play it. In a fugue, we call this main melody the subject. While this subject is being passed around, instruments not playing the subject then take turns to play the accompaniment lines. The result of this is a web of interweaving lines within the entire ensemble, in which every instrument becomes equally important. The fugue became popular during the 17th century around what we call the Baroque period, most notably used by composers such as Johann Sebastian Bach. And while the fugue gradually fell out of fashion afterwards, fugal techniques were still frequently used in later styles of music, even until today. So, rather than just talking about it, let's write the fugue together to see these musical devices come into play. So let's start by writing a subject. The subject is usually not long, just a couple of bars. And for our fugue, we're going to use the key of D minor, and it sounds like this. And then we're going to decide how many instruments or voices are going to be performing this fugue. Let's just say 4, since a lot of music has been traditionally divided into 4 parts. And from high to low, they are soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. We're going to give the subject to the alto first. And when the alto is done with the subject, the next voice, soprano, gets the subject. The alto doesn't stop here, as it changes to an accompaniment line which we call the counter subject. The other 2 voices then enter one by one with their versions of the subject. And as they gradually enter, the music becomes increasingly dense, ultimately having all 4 voices playing at the same time. So at this point, after the subject is introduced in all 4 voices, the music begins its first section without any subjects, and this is known as the episode. For our first episode, we're going to take a chord progression. And use some of the motifs in the subject to decorate these chords. And when we're done with the episode, we're going to go back to using subjects. So by now, we can probably see that there is no clear distinction between melody and accompaniment, since each of these 4 voices has its unique line, which all work nicely with each other in harmony. This technique of putting seemingly independent melodies against each other to produce harmony is known as counterpoint. While the strict structure of a fugue isn't common in music written today anymore, the technique of counterpoint is a fundamental concept for composers writing in any style of music. Okay, back to our fugue. We've introduced the subject a few more times, written another episode, and we're approaching the final section of the fugue. Sometimes composers get bored with just the subject by itself, so we do things to vary them. We can flip the subject upside down to create what we call an inversion. And when we overlap two subjects on top of each other, it's called a stretto. And here, we're going to use both. We're going to invert the subject a few more times before ending the fugue with a final entry of the original subject. So all these are very technical, and you might ask, what is the point of doing these? Just for composers to show off their skills? Well, there's often a theme or a vague narrative surrounding many of these fugues. And for our fugue in particular, I guess you could say it wants to depict a sense of sadness, longing, or even lament. That's why it's written in a minor key, with a psi motive in the subject, and the psi motive is later repeated higher to further intensify the sense of sadness. And later on in the fugue, when we invert the subject, the psi motive goes up instead of going down, which kind of makes it hopeful, a hope that will eventually escape from our despair. But as reality strikes us, we return to the original subject after a big cadence, with a lament bass to banish us to eternal doom. Or you could say the composer is just showing off. It's up to your interpretation. Anyway, that's enough talking for now. Let's hear how our fugue sounds like. But to do that, I think I need 3 more people. So, hang on, let me just, Oh, there you go. Hey guys.
Oh,
What's
hey.
up? You ready for some fugue party?
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Alright. I hope that didn't make you too sad. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more music related videos in the future. I'll see you soon.